Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here at Semicon West in San Francisco, and I'm joined by Ron Keith from Riverwood Solutions. Ron, thanks for stopping by to chat.
Good to see you again.
Great to see you. The semicon industry seems to be different in some ways to what's going on in the EMS sector. We've seen changes in the globalization within the EMS industry. We've seen this regionalization, reshoring. We don't get that at speed in the semiconductor industry. I guess that's size of the plants, barriers to entry. What are you seeing in terms of the international trends in semicon that impact on what you're doing in the supply chain?
I was reading an article somewhere in the last week or so, and I might not quote the numbers exactly right, but they were talking about semiconductor CapEx, and that in this year, maybe 45 or 50% of semiconductor CapEx is the top three guys. And one of them is Intel. And so one of the trends that we're seeing in that space, they're kind of countervailing trends. One trend is almost all of the startups and almost all the relatively young, when I say relatively young, I mean 10, 15-year-old semiconductor companies, do not manufacture anything. Right, so these global foundries that do all of the fabrication, there are dozens of companies that do the packaging and all of that type of stuff. And so to some extent, the barriers to entry to developing, selling, and marketing a semiconductor device, a novel semiconductor device, have probably never been lower. Right. At the same time, with Facebook and Zynga and things like that, and this wave of social media, the capital flows in Silicon Valley, and we're here in Silicon Valley, the capital flows have by and large, until very recently, shied away from semiconductors. Because there is a lot of startup capital investment in the design, there's multiple design iterations of trying to prove out a design. So there's a lot of fixed capital up front, and you're always subject to these Schumpeterian shocks where, hey, I can design a chip that's going to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to do a tenth of the cost. But you don't know who else is doing what, and you can get right there to market and be made obsolete the day before you launch.
Yeah.
And so there hasn't been a lot of VC money, new VC money going into semiconductors until just recently.
Right. Yeah, so that's going to have a big impact. And actually, it's interesting you talk about Silicon Valley. I think one of the other regional changes we've seen in the EMS sector is Silicon Valley becoming more and more important again for that particular part of the industry. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a kind of a regrowth of energy around here over the last couple of years?
Well, the regrowth in energy in the EMS sector here isn't really about doing the manufacturing. It's not about the M. It's about the ancillary services. It's about building the customer relationships. This is still probably the most fertile innovation center in the world.
Yeah.
And so getting in, if you're an EMS company, getting in with these OEMs and these brand-owning enterprises and these startups that, if you look at GoPro went public last week. Yeah. It has a market cap now. They do about $900 million in sales. They have a market cap of about $6 billion. I think Flextronics will do $28 billion in sales this year, and they have a market cap of about $6 billion.
Wow!
I mean, just think about that. You've got a company with
30 times the size.
30 times the size. You've got a company. One company has 1,000 employees. One company has 250,000 employees. And so, getting involved with the next GoPro, with the next Nest, with the next Oculus, requires being here. It requires some engineering capability. It requires cultivating relationships and patience. And there's a belief, and I think it's mostly correct, but sometimes not, mostly correct, that if you can't get in with those folks early, you're going to miss out.
Yeah.
They're not going to go industrialize all of their product here and get all of the problems wrung out, and then call an uninvolved third party and launch it over the wall.
Yeah.
Having said that, I've been fascinated by the fact that Foxconn and Pegatron are still not here.
Yeah.
Right? And even though they might have 100 people over in Cupertino today, they have not officially created a presence here.
Right. Yeah, and that doesn't make sense, does it? Because there is opportunity. I look at Silicon Valley and I think if you could sponsor all the Starbucks in Silicon Valley and have your name over the wall, that would be the place to be. So it's nearness to customer, it's nearness to those, more importantly, to those innovators. And then it becomes about, I think, this triangle that connects money, innovation, and that fulfillment, that manufacturing fulfillment, manufacturing expertise. I can't think of anywhere that's more vividly visible than here with Menlo Park and all the funding.
It's also connection to the next level of technology.
Right.
So many of the semiconductor guys, all of the fabless guys, have headquarters or big development centers here or customer support centers here. And so understanding what the next generation of chips is coming out so that you can influence the design. When you're doing your global procurement agreements and trying to negotiate prices, being here where their headquarters are and their decision makers are, there's also something to that as well.
Yeah, and those innovators, I mean, we were at the CES show earlier this year and you were exhibiting in the area that was called Eureka Park. There were some really cool innovators there, people that were using Kickstarter to fund other crowdsourcing or crowdfunding options as well. Are they having success with the big EMS guys that are here in San Jose, or is it the next tier down? How do they partner up or buddy up? Who can they trust?
Those are two different questions. So let me try and take them one at a time. In terms of are they having success? Ask me that in 2 or 3 years, and I'll have some better view. There are some of the the big players that do very little in the startup space, and it's because it is a very complex set of variables that you have to go master. Nobody's going to make any money on a startup in the early days. You're either going to lose money or you will fight to break even. But when there is no real manufacturing volume, it's very hard to get excited about. It's very hard to get enough economics to move the needle. So it's all about investing in the future. So when you see these EMS companies partner up with these Kickstarters or partner up with VCs or partner up with even the startups that come out of them, it is a bet. And they might tell you that it is not a bet, but it is a bet. Yeah. They are betting their time and their resources that might be working on something else, that this will become big and it will become meaningful at some point in time. So it adds a whole new level of risk. If you go to an established company and they're building 100,000 of this and you win that business, you have some feel for what that is. But if it's a brand new product, and when you're talking about innovation, when it's a product that isn't replacing something on the market, it's will someone put a GPS and an accelerometer on their dog and track their activity?
Yeah.
Right? Do people really want to open their house with their cell phone? Things like this. You have to hold a belief in whether or not that's going to work. You have to hold a belief that you can help make it work. But if you're wrong on market adoption, you can be 2 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in and go, okay, let's go start over and try something else. So it really changes the risk profile. Yeah,
and it has to change then the investment, the value you get back from that, which doesn't really fit with the traditional EMS model, I guess. It fits more with what we call in the UK angel funding. I don't know if you call it the same out here in the US. So yeah, lots of changes there. Do you find those startups, those brand new innovation companies, engaging with companies like Riverwood to try and connect with that manufacturing, to try and get the right partner, or do they just blindly bounce around trying to look for the right guy to make their stuff?
A little bit of both. We some of the hotter startups around here that make a lot of the press, we will reach out to them, and if we get a hold of the VP of Ops, there's a 0% chance we're going to do business. If we get a hold of the CEO, there's probably a 30 or 40% chance they'll ask for help. The operations people don't want operating experts to help them.
Right.
They don't want to feel like they need that. But we have a lot of people that just reach out to us. We've been around for 5 years now. We get a little bit more press. We've got a lot more customers, and we're now old enough that we have this like second and third generation of customer. Somebody started a company, we did a great job, they cashed out, started another company, the first thing they do is call us.
Yeah.
And so, some of that feeds upon itself. But the customers that do call us early, we're typically pretty successful with.
Yeah.
We have a lot of scars. We have launched a lot of products, and we've launched a lot successfully. We've made a lot of mistakes launching products. And what you want to do is buy those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go try that yourself and make a mistake on your only product launch. You want to hire some people with scars that have launched a bunch and know what, it's not even as important to know what works as to know what definitely doesn't work, right? And so we have mixed results with startups here.
Yeah, and as you say, 5 years, you've grown quite a bit, a lot of customers. A lot of customers that have joined the Riverwood Solutions group during that time. Quite a lot of new consultants, quite a lot of people now. Continuing to grow, what's next for Riverwood?
So continuing to grow. 2013 was a pretty good year for us. We were up about 36% revenue-wise. and pretty evenly spread between our managed services business, where we help people offshore with the actual execution, and our consulting business, which is more of a project related, help them think through things early on. So yeah, it was a pretty good year. We have expectations to grow a little bit more than that this year, somewhere closer to the 40% range. We're doing a lot of hiring. We recently went to our board and to our investors and have put aside, we just did the largest fundraising in the history of the company. But we've also gone to them and asked for them to kind of earmark some money for acquisitions. Okay. So we're looking to do, in the next couple of years, 2 or 3, depending on size, acquisitions of firms that are synergistic with ourselves, so that are either providing similar services or are serving a very similar customer base, something like that. Possibly something that gives us an expanded geographic footprint, maybe something that gives us some new customers that we don't have access to. But probably it will involve expanding a little bit from our core services. We'll probably need some more engineering capability. Right. We don't want to necessarily design products, but the engineers that we have are extremely busy helping correct designs, make them more manufacturable, help cost reduce, value engineer and stuff. So, the next year and a half is going to be marked by both organic growth in the 35-40% range, and then some acquisitions as well. So, you get out there around the world, if you know some firms that are interesting, give me a call. It's definitely worth the beer. Yeah, well, we'll definitely send them in your direction. But making that connection between innovation and manufacturing, not just in terms of how to get the manufacturing, but the engineering expertise, the design expertise, all those things, adds a lot of value to the innovator. Yeah. Okay, well, Ron, thanks for talking to me. Thanks very much for your time. Enjoy the show.
Thank you.